Hi everyone, this is Premalatha. Today we are going to see how PHP is being connected to MySQL. So MySQL is basically a database connectivity which can be connected to any of the front end. It is kind of a backend, and this is the kind of PHP setup for the database connectivity. That is, we say it as PHP MyAdmin. Here we just go and create the database. Inside the database we can create a number of tables. So we will go into the concept directly. So the table name which I have created is persons, and the database name is MyDB. So hope you can see the persons database here. And basically in MySQLi is the function which is used to make a connectivity between the front end and the back end. So your front end is obviously your PHP code. So connection is the variable name. You're creating an SQL server connectivity, and inside you have to give the server name, username, and the password. The server name can be given while installing the PHP, so you just please check it. It might be root obviously by default, otherwise it might be localhost, and please check with the port number, and then if you specify the port number with the localhost, this will be accepted. So hope the explanation is given here. So you have the port number with the localhost, and you have a username, and you have a password. Now this is the code which is initially used for creating the front end connection with the back end connection. So the name of the server is localhost. Either you can specify localhost or localhost with the port number. Normally by default it gets connected if you have only one server into your computer which is installed in it, and the username is root, and there is no password, so the password column is empty. And for checking the connection, we have connection error statement. If the connection is not established or any of the credentials is not properly given, then obviously it can throw a statement for failing the connection. So once a connection is made, obviously a connection has to be closed. So here is the code for setting your front end with the back end connectivity, and here this is for closing your connection. So all these are bit of codes. At last we are going to club it into a code, and the first step is to create the database. Make sure of one thing, that the database code creation has to be executed only once. If you are trying to execute this code again and again, then it means that you are creating the same database again and again, so it is not possible. So what you have to do is, one code you are going to write, and that is for creating the database, and the name of the database my_db, and this file has to be executed only once for your entire database connectivity. Whatever tables you create under this database has to be executed only once. This code alone has to be executed only once. So the first is for creating the connection. Hope you know how to create the connection. And second step is for creating the database. So SQL is what you're going to write for the table creation, the query execution, everything. So what you're going to do is, you're going to create a database with MyDB. I have specified my_db, and you just please make sure here it is specified MyDB. So make sure you just keep on to one name, and it is MyDB. And you have created the code for creating the database. What you have to do is, you have to execute the code. So connection query has to be executed in this manner. So this is the syntax for executing your SQL query. So if you are writing n number of SQL queries, how that has to be executed will be taken care in the next slides. So as of now we have created only one SQL query, so we are executing it once. If the database is created successfully, you will get the message like database created successfully, otherwise you will have an error throw. So you just specify the local host and go into a directory, directly click onto the database creation PHP file, and if the connection is set and if the database is created, then obviously you will get a message that database is created successfully. And once the database is created, the second step is to create the table. I hope everyone know how to create a table normally. And coming to the part, this is again for the same connection setup. Once the connection is set, you're going to create the table for SQL. So create table persons, and the three attributes are first name, last name and age. So you have created it, and now we are going to execute this SQL query using connection query of SQL. So once this query is executed, and if the table is created successfully without errors, you will get the table person name. This person is name of the table created successfully. Now make sure you just take care of all these primary keys kind of stuff. And second step, so you have the first step, you have created the database connectivity. Second step is you have created the database. Third step, you have created the table, the database. And fourth step is you are going to create the table into the database MyDB. So MyDB is the name of the database. Inside that you have created the table persons, and now you're inserting the values into the table person. So there are two methods for specifying the connection. One, we directly specify the server name, this is the username, this is the password. Okay, this is for creating the table and the database alone, but when you go and manipulate any of the tables, then obviously you have to specify the name of the database also. So the second method of representing the same is you have to specify the server name, the username, the password, the database name. Now you're going to create the connection for the server name, that is localhost, username, that is root, password is nil, and the database name is MyDB. So once the connection is set, you have created the table already. Now it is to insert the values. This is not SQL to create the table, this is to insert the values into the table. So SQL is equal to insert into persons. So this is how you normally insert values. You are specifying the attribute names followed by the values, and after that you are executing this SQL query. If the SQL query is executed, you will get a message that the record is inserted successfully, otherwise you are throwing in SQL error. So when you execute, you have inserted one record. So insertion is done. Now what we have to do, we have to check whether the inserted values are updated into the database or not by using a select command. So this query is for inserting one single row. If you want to insert multiple rows into one single code, then the first query for the SQL is SQL equal to, for the subsequent insertions you have to specify $SQL dot equal to, like this. So there is an option for inserting multiple number of rows into the table, for inserting rows into the table. And you have inserted the data into the database. Now it's time to select and display the contents. So the same, you have created the database, you have created the table. So you are calling the server name, username, password, database name, and you are writing the select command. Either you just type select star from table name, or you specify the domain name. So select command can be for the tuples or for the domains also. So select first name, last name, age from persons. At last what you're doing is you're executing this query and storing it in the result. Now there will not be one single row which is selected, because we have inserted multiple number of rows into the table. So obviously the number of rows which we get will be obviously greater than 0. If there exist any rows, then obviously the result value will be greater than 0. That is what we are checking. So we are checking the result number of rows is greater than 0, in the sense the table has some records into it. Then if that is the case, we are displaying the contents of the table using associative array. So row equal to result fetch associate. So what it will do is the entire query will be executed again and again till it displays all the records of the particular table. So you are giving, so this while loop will be executing till it displays all the values. So this is how the data which is displayed.